Alright, welcome back to my YouTube channel, One Book or Novel at a Time. I will continue to read to you Doll by Miracle Austin, and we're about to begin to read chapter 14. And as I always start all my readings, I gotta let you know a little bit about the copyright laws. Some books, depending on what the author allows, you cannot copy, you cannot make read alouds without their permission. So just wanted to let you know that I do have written permission from the author, Miracle Austin, to do these read alouds to my students. And without her help, this wouldn't have been possible. So thank you for that. So I will begin reading to you all chapter 14, and it says like this. We arrived at Opal's home. It was strange, just standing there at her driveway, her front door, until she noticed us. She walked up to the car and opened the back door, sliding in without a sound. Before we could say a word, Opal said, "I'm all in." Sari and I just looked at each other without uttering a single word. How did Opal know that we even had a plan? It all felt really weird. I placed the car in gear and backed up out of her driveway. No one said anything for almost 10 minutes until I decided to break the ice. So, Opal, what really happened in the locker room with Pepper that caused you to run out of there in your undies? I asked. Sari turned around in the seat and rested her chin onto her folded elbows. I expected Opal to remain silent, like she did when Sari and I were sharing our worst experiences with Pepper. But she surprised me. What did you hear? She had a blank stare in her eyes as I looked at her in my rearview mirror. I heard from Sari that as you were changing your clothes in the locker room that someone, think I can take a wild guess as to who that is, dumped a bucket of night crawlers on you. That's right, Pepper and her vipers did. Opal started tearing up fast. She dropped her head down. I didn't have a handkerchief or anything on me. Sari must have had some tissues in her purse because she started digging around in there. She pulled some out and handed them to Opal. She wiped her face a few times and blew her nose. I've always had vermiphobia, the fear of worms, since I was a little girl. My older brother and his friends played a mean trick on me when I was 11. He woke me up late one Halloween night, gagged me, tied my hands and feet, carried me from my bed, and placed me in a coffin. No way, Sari. Sari gasped. Yeah, they then threw a bucket of night crawlers on me and closed the casket. I could hear them all laughing and counting. I had to untie my hands and feet and push the coffin door open with all the strength I possessed, while those slimy worms squirmed all over my face and body. Did you tell your parents? Sari asked as her eyes widened. No, he threatened me not to. Wow, do you see him often now? Nope, he passed a few years back in a surfing accident in Australia. Sorry, Sari said. I glanced up in my rear view mirror again. It's okay, I'm not. Opal lifted her head up and she had a spooky half grin painted on her face. Sari turned around and looked at me. Pepper knew my worst fear because I left my binder under a desk freshman year. She found it. There was a secret in it compartment where I kept my diary. I begged for her to give it back to me, but she refused. Opal howled. Wow, I bet you had a lot of personal stuff written down on these pages, I said. Yeah, a lot of stuff about Pepper and things I've never told anyone. What? Sari yelled. I pulled up to the far side of the lake, away from the rest of our classmates partying. I popped the hood of the trunk. We all stepped out of the car and shut the doors. I walked around back to hunt for a blanket. Sari and Opal helped me to spread the blanket over the ground. We sat down and just took in the scenery. Lit up by the starry night and full moon, my hand rested on Sari's. I thought about how I was going to explain our little plan to Opal, especially regarding my cousin's little secret. So what do you think? What secret might that be? And that was the end of chapter 14. What a mean girl. Can't believe she did that to Opal. Oh, with worms. Oof. Chapter 15. Oh, I forgot to tell you my cousin's name. Lisette Love You. I haven't seen her in almost a year now. Lisette is like a special queen bee that all the workers' bees follow while forgetting to collect honey or maintain the hive. Her great aunt was the infamous Marie Laveau of New Orleans. From what I can recall about Marie Laveau, she was an extremely powerful voodoo queen who could pretty much do anything that someone wished up for her to do or undo if needed. Her gifts were passed on down each generation of witches. Many seized and misused the gifts, while others ran far from it, even relocating out of the area in order to not be associated with the family name. However, Lisette decided to embrace all of Marie Laveau's gifts, use them, and she needed, mostly for the good. She always made me nervous when we were younger. I didn't believe the stories that I heard about Lisette until one night, something happened that finally made me never again question who she really was and what she was capable of doing. I thought witches were only made up in storybooks with green skin, monstrous noses, broomsticks, evil black cats, and cauldrons. But Lisette was the total opposite. Before I started to tell Opal about Lisette and our plan, she said something that made it so much easier. You know, no matter what, Pepper Fox will always win and get away with anything she does. No matter how much her acts torture others, especially me. I just wish, Opal said with a long sigh. Wish what? Sari asked, leaning in closer to Opal, who sat on the opposite side of the blanket. It doesn't matter because it would never happen anyhow. She's who she'll always be, and her family is so powerful in Frost and then some. So there you go. Opal, what if I told you that something could be done to Pepper where she was no longer untouchable? Something to really teach her a lesson for good? I asked. You're just fooling yourself because so many fear her, or probably more so, her dad. Opal shrugged her shoulders and stood up. She walked closer to the lake and slipped her sandals off to walk along the shoreline, bowing her head down. As I was about to stand up to follow, Sari pulled me back down by my shirt tail and said, No, let me go and talk to her first. You follow in a few, okay? She rubbed my cheek. After I noticed Sari and Opal talking for a few minutes with Opal barely cracking a smile, I figured that was my clue to join them. I walked towards them. Tomie, I was telling Opal a little about Lisette, Sari said. Yes, Lisette is really different, but she knows a way to help us out with our pepper pest. What do you mean she's different? Opal asked. Well, she's never been like other girls and all. She comes from a long line of... Just tell her already, Sari pleaded. I ran my hands through my hair and lowered myself down into a squat while staring up at both of them. Opal, how can I explain this to you? Are you trying to tell me that Lisette is a witch? I jumped up and was speechless for a moment. I couldn't believe Opal would guess what I was trying to confess to her. How did you know? I asked with a slight stutter. I recall how you were really intrigued with that one picture of Pepper with her eyes missing that spilled out of my backpack on the bus. Plus your name, Dupree. French, right? Yes, but what does the two have in common to conclude my cousin is a witch? Lisette Lavieux, related to Marie Lavieux, the super powerful witch of Louisiana from back in the day, right? She asked while staring out into the lake. Yeah, I wasn't expecting your deduction of those facts, I mumbled. Yeah, me either, Sari said. Plus, you two kept on wanting me to be part of something, which meant you needed 3. A powerful number in the craft world, right? The power of 3. Sari and I just shook our heads up and down in agreement. Yes, I said. All right, since we're all on the same page, what's the next step? Sari asked. There's only one that makes the most sense. I walked closer to both of them. Opal stared intensely into my eyes. Time for a little road trip to visit Lisette. I'll text her and maybe we can leave first thing in the morning. If all is a go, then I will text you both. We all walked back to the car and loaded up. I dropped Opal off first, texting Lisette before we even left her driveway. Sari and I took the longer way home. Before I dropped Sari off, she asked, do you think that we're really doing the right thing? Yeah. You having second thoughts now? Yes, I am. There's just something about this that makes me uneasy, especially what Opal shared tonight. She knows a lot more than I ever expected her to know. I guess, but I just think some of it was just her assumptions and all. Plus, she's a mighty bookworm. It's going to be okay, and what can it hurt for Pepper to be taught a little lesson? It's not like we're sending her early to her grave or something. Yeah, I guess you're right. I'm just overthinking it all. Yeah, come here, I said, but before she did, my phone beeped. It was Lisette. She texted, hey there, stranger. Come on my way with your friends tomorrow. My schedule's wide open. Oh, by the way, you didn't tell me you had a girlfriend. See you then. Sari peeped down towards my phone. We good to go tomorrow? She asked. I nodded and texted Lisette back to confirm. I then texted Opal, telling her to be ready in the morning. I thought you told me that it's been a while since you've communicated with Lisette. Yeah, it's been a while, but she knew that I would be contacting her once everything was in place. So, how did she know about us? I knew that you would ask that, Sari. Lisette always knows stuff. It used to surprise me, but it doesn't much anymore. She's pretty special. You'll see yourself soon. Get some sleep. I'll pick you up first and Opal second. So, do you think that you can be ready about 10:30 a.m.? It takes about 3 hours to drive to Monroe Creek, Louisiana. Sari gave me a slight smile and nodded her head. Hey, why you look worried? I asked. I placed my hand under her chin to turn towards me. What's up? You still thinking about what Opal was mouthing off about earlier? I guess, but it's no big deal. I grabbed both of her hands and kissed each one. She stepped out of the car and walked up towards her front door. Her mom stepped out and waved at me. I waved back. She and her mom walked in together. I beat my horn and drove off. And that is the end of chapter 15. It's getting very interesting. Chapter 16, let's see what happens. It says, I arrived home and walked towards the back of the house. The door was unlocked. I opened it slowly and shut it behind me while locking it. Dad was asleep because the television was off, but a hallway light was left on. I crept into my bedroom and slipped off my clothes before jumping in the shower. When I finished, I dried off, brushed my teeth, and slipped into my Captain America pajama bottoms. Before hopping in bed, I noticed it was almost midnight. I texted Sari a goodnight message and how I enjoyed just spending our time together earlier, and tonight she texted me back with some red kissing lips and hearts. I set my alarm for 9 a.m. and was out. The next morning came super fast. I stumbled out of bed after smelling bacon and eggs. I grabbed a t-shirt hanging off the back of my desk chair and pulled it on over my head. I had to tug at it because my hair was all over the place, like a sprouting bush. I walked into the bathroom to do my business before going into the kitchen. Dad had my breakfast plate made up with scrambled eggs, hash browns, and a few strips of turkey bacon. A tall glass of apple juice sat next to the warm plate. Good morning, son, he said, sitting down and pulling the newspaper down to look at me. Hey, Dad, thanks for the breakfast. What's the occasion? There's not one. I just wanted to. He placed the newspaper down. So I thought that we could go hang out today. Maybe go to that new sporting goods store, check out a movie, talk about girls, and grab a bite to eat. My eyes widened as I took a swig of chilled apple juice. Really? I set it down on the table. Yeah, why not? I couldn't believe the words coming out of my dad's mouth because it had really been a long time since I was able to hang out with him. He'd been taking more out-of-state delivery jobs because of the extra pay and bonuses these last few years. Are you serious? Of course. Why wouldn't I be? Just didn't expect this. I was pretty much speechless. I started daydreaming about spending some quality time with my dad, but then I snapped out of it and recalled the Monroe Creek road trip to see Lisette. Oh, Dad, can we do it another time? Sure. I didn't think about you having plans. I should have asked you. No problem, I mumbled as I stuffed the third piece of bacon into my mouth and drank the rest of my juice. I paused before speaking. Actually, I'm going out of town with Sari and Opal. We'll probably end up spending the night at Lisette's. I halted my enjoyment of chewing. Dad's pale face transformed into a deep shade of red. He pushed away from the table. Tomie, why are you still involving yourself with her? Dad, she's my cousin. I know, but her family has been trouble and always will be. What do you mean? What kind of trouble? Never mind. It's not important. Fine. I pushed back from the table, stood up, and walked away back into my room. Every time that I brought up Lisette, Dad never had anything good to say about her. My late mom went missing a few months after I was born. She was found dead in Lake Baden in Louisiana a few days later. Lisette had nothing to do with her death, but for some odd reason, my dad continues to despise everything associated with my mom's family, including Lisette. Lisette is the only one I've ever known on my mom's side of the family. I placed my backpack on the desk, pulled some books and folders out, and threw in a pair of jeans, a shirt, and other necessities for the trip. I fluffed my hair up with my fingers, then threw on some basketball shorts and tennis shoes. I slipped my backpack over both my shoulders. I texted Sari how much more time she needed. She replied to let me know she was ready. As I was walking out of my room and shutting the door behind me, my dad caught me in the hallway. Tomie, I know it doesn't matter what I have to say. I want you to know that Lisette isn't who you think she is. Dad, I know. She's a witch. He froze and whispered, Tomie, how long have you known? A while. I'll see you tomorrow night, okay? I walked back through the kitchen to grab some chips from the cabinet and some bottles of water from the fridge to toss in my backpack. I walked out the back door and I looked over my shoulder to see Dad positioned inside the door frame, watching me walk away. I jumped in and turned on the car, placed in reverse, and headed over to pick up Sari and then Opal. As we were driving out of Ross, Texas, I thought about Dad and his perpetual resentment with Lisette. Tomie, something wrong? Sari asked. Just ready to get out of here. Sari made some silly faces at me, poked her tongue out, twitched her nose around, and blew kisses at me. I smiled, but my mind continued to drift back to what Dad said earlier about Lisette. My eyes began to feel heavy. We found a rest stop. I walked around for a bit. Sari offered to drive until we arrived in Monroe Creek. I didn't argue with her. I tossed her the keys and she jumped in the driver's seat. Opal joined, Sari up front so I could rest in the back. I dozed off fast with my long legs stretched across the seat. And that is the end of chapter 16. Thank you for listening. If you have not subscribed to One Book or Novel at a Time, don't forget to do it at the end of this video. And I will see you on our next video. It's getting good, right? Thank you for listening. Have an awesome day.